Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that constantly pushes us to master external things: money, success, recognition, power. But the greatest power, the most transformative success, lies not outside of us. It lies within. That power is self-mastery. Master yourself, master everything is not just a catchy phrase. It is a timeless truth. When you gain control over your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and your choices, you become unstoppable. You become the author of your own story, instead of a character written by circumstance. Self-mastery is about discipline, showing up every day when no one's watching. It's about silence, calming the chaos of your mind to hear the whispers of purpose. It's about integrity, aligning your actions with your values even when it's hard. And it's about responsibility. Most people want to change the world but ignore the world within. Yet the greatest revolutions begin internally. If you can't lead yourself, how will you ever lead others? If you can't face your fears, how will you conquer life's battles? Before anything can truly be mastered in the outside world, whether it's your career, your relationships, your finances, or your dreams, you must first turn inward. Self-mastery is the foundation of all external achievement, the solid ground upon which everything else stands. You can have all the talent in the world, you can be surrounded by opportunities, you can even have people cheering for you, but if you lack control over yourself, none of it will last. Success without self-mastery is like a mansion built on sand. It may rise quickly, but it will eventually crumble. The truth is, everything in life starts from the inside out. Your thoughts create your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions build your future. If your inner world is chaotic, undisciplined, or ruled by fear and doubt, then no matter how hard you work or how high you aim, there will always be a limit to what you can achieve. But when you take command of your inner environment, when you discipline your mind, your emotions, and your decisions, you unlock a power that no obstacle can withstand. Mastering yourself doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or denying your struggles. It means becoming aware of them. It means observing your impulses, questioning your excuses, confronting your fears, and making choices from clarity rather than compulsion. It's about being able to sit with discomfort and not run. It's about choosing to act from purpose rather than reacting from pain. Self-mastery gives you the ability to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. Think about the most successful and influential people throughout history. They all had something in common, not just skill or ambition, but self-control, discipline, focus, and the strength to delay gratification. They knew when to push, when to rest, when to say yes, and more importantly, when to say no. They cultivated themselves so deeply that the storms outside could not shake the peace and power within. They mastered themselves, and in doing so, they mastered their destiny. When you haven't mastered yourself, your mind becomes your enemy. It fills with doubt, distraction, insecurity, fear, laziness, or ego. You start blaming others for your stagnation. You fall into patterns of procrastination. You chase things that look good but feel empty. But when you begin to master yourself, everything changes. You become grounded. You become deliberate. You become someone who can be trusted, someone who shows up, someone who is no longer ruled by the noise of the world, but guided by inner clarity and discipline. Self-mastery doesn't guarantee an easy life, but it ensures you'll be strong enough to face a hard one with courage. It won't make every day perfect, but it will give you the strength to rise on the worst days. And over time, that internal strength begins to shape your outer world in ways you never imagined. That is the power of mastering yourself. Because when you own yourself, when you rise above your lower nature, when you discipline your inner world, you no longer have to chase control over everything else. It naturally flows toward you. Discipline is the quiet force that shapes great lives. It's not dramatic, it doesn't shout, it doesn't look glamorous, but it is the one quality that builds strength, endurance, character, and results. Discipline means doing the thing you said you would do long after the mood in which you said it has faded. It's waking up when your bed is warm and your will is weak. It's practicing the basics while others search for shortcuts. It's choosing growth over comfort again and again and again. We live in a world where instant gratification has become the norm. We want success, but we don't want to struggle. We want results, but we hate repetition. We want greatness, but we avoid routine. But the truth is, the bridge between where you are and where you want to be is paved with discipline. Without it, dreams remain distant, plans stay on paper, and potential becomes wasted. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself through life with gritted teeth. It's about aligning your daily choices with your deeper purpose. It's the fuel that keeps the fire burning when motivation runs out. Because motivation is emotional. It's high one day and low the next. Discipline, on the other hand, is commitment. It's consistency. It's that unshakable promise you make to yourself that no matter how you feel today, you'll take one more step forward. Some people wait to feel ready before they begin. But those who understand discipline know that you act first and the feeling follows. You don't wait to feel inspired, you show up. You don't wait to feel confident, you build it through action. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, you train your mind to obey your values rather than your impulses. The greatest transformations happen not in grand gestures, but in quiet, repeated acts of discipline. Waking up early, putting in the hours, saying no to the unnecessary, choosing to grow rather than escape. It's boring sometimes, it's uncomfortable often, but it is in those small, invisible victories that real power is forged. Because the person who can control themselves, who can delay gratification, who can focus deeply, who can do what's hard when no one's watching, is the person who cannot be stopped. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's falling off the path and getting back on. It's missing the mark and trying again. It's building habits so strong that they carry you even when your emotions betray you. Every time you say yes to discipline, you say yes to your future. You say yes to mastery, to confidence, to freedom. Freedom may sound like the opposite of discipline, but the truth is, discipline creates freedom. When you are disciplined with your time, you have more of it. When you are disciplined with your energy, you preserve it for what matters. When you are disciplined with your words, you build trust. When you are disciplined with your actions, you shape your destiny. Discipline is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is choosing the hard path now so that life becomes easier later. It is turning your back on excuses and stepping into accountability. It is the daily decision to become better, not because you have to, but because you owe it to yourself, your purpose, and the people counting on you. Your thoughts are the architects of your reality. Everything you do, every action, decision, and reaction originates from your thinking. The way you perceive the world, the way you respond to problems, the way you treat others, and most importantly, the way you treat yourself, is deeply rooted in the patterns of thought you allow to live in your mind. If your thoughts are negative, scattered, or undisciplined, your life will reflect that inner chaos. But if your thoughts are focused, intentional, and rooted in purpose, your life begins to align with clarity, peace, and success. Most people don't realize how often their minds are running on autopilot. We wake up and immediately reach for our phones. We absorb noise, opinions, and distractions before we've even connected with ourselves. Throughout the day, our thoughts jump from one fear to another, one insecurity to the next, from self-doubt to comparison, from overthinking to avoidance. Without realizing it, our thoughts become a prison, quietly dictating our limits and distorting our view of what's possible. To master your life, you must first take control of this internal conversation. You must learn to question your thoughts instead of blindly believing them. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it's true. Not every fear is valid. Not every doubt is real. Not every criticism matters. You have to become the gatekeeper of your own mind, deciding which thoughts deserve space and which must be challenged, reframed, or dismissed. Controlling your thoughts doesn't mean silencing them or pretending that everything is positive all the time. It means developing awareness. It means noticing when your mind begins to spiral and consciously choosing to shift your perspective. It means being able to say, this thought is not helping me grow, and replacing it with one that does. It's a constant act of mental hygiene, like cleaning your inner environment so that your mental garden grows strength instead of weeds. You become what you think about most. If your mind is filled with fear, your actions will be timid. If your thoughts are filled with anger, your life will be reactive. If your thoughts are filled with limitation, you will sabotage opportunity. But if your thoughts are trained to focus on growth, gratitude, possibility, discipline, and purpose, you will naturally begin to rise, to build, to lead. That is not magic, that is the natural result of mental direction. Every great achievement begins in the mind. Before a body is trained, a thought must say, I am strong. Before a goal is pursued, a thought must say, this is possible. Before a fear is faced, a thought must say, I am more than this. That single shift in thinking can be the difference between staying stuck and rising into action. Your mind will try to protect you from discomfort, but self-mastery demands that you think beyond safety and move toward growth. To take control of your thoughts is to take control of your energy. Your energy flows where your attention goes. If your thoughts are constantly focused on problems, you drain yourself. If your mind is full of blame, judgment, or excuses, you give your power away. But if your thoughts are focused on solutions, progress, and lessons, you gain momentum, even in hard times. The right mindset can turn a setback into a lesson and a loss into a launch. Emotions are powerful forces. They shape the way we see the world, influence how we relate to others, and determine the energy we carry into every situation. Yet for many, emotions remain mysterious, overwhelming, and often uncontrollable. We've been taught to hide them, fear them, or be consumed by them. But rarely are we taught to understand them, to sit with them, or to lead with emotional intelligence. And without that emotional understanding, it becomes almost impossible to master yourself. Self-mastery does not mean the absence of emotion. It means having a healthy relationship with it. It means becoming aware of your emotional landscape and learning how to navigate it with clarity and intention. Emotions are not the enemy. They are messengers. Anger may be telling you where your boundaries were crossed. Sadness might be pointing you to something you've been avoiding. Fear may be a signal for growth, and joy, true joy, is a compass guiding you toward your deepest truth. But you will only receive these messages if you learn how to listen, instead of reacting blindly. So many people live in emotional reactivity. A moment of criticism can ruin their day. A small disappointment turns into a storm of blame. One bad morning becomes an excuse to give up on the entire week. And why? Because they haven't yet developed the tools to observe, process, and redirect their emotions. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means learning to respond rather than react. It's the ability to feel deeply while still choosing your words, your actions, and your focus. When you don't have control over your emotions, They begin to control you. You lash out when you should hold steady. You shut down when you should speak up. You cling when you should let go, and you ignore when you should face the truth. And this doesn't just affect your mood. It affects your relationships, your goals, your ability to lead, and your capacity to stay consistent under pressure. Emotional maturity is one of the highest forms of strength because it allows you to remain grounded even when life tries to pull you in every direction. Developing emotional intelligence begins with awareness. It requires pausing before reacting. It demands that you ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Where is this coming from? Is my reaction helping or harming? This level of introspection creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, you reclaim your power. You stop being a slave to your emotional impulses and start becoming a master of your emotional state. And yes, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes slipping up and coming back stronger. But every time you catch yourself before snapping in anger, every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you comfort yourself instead of judging yourself, you are strengthening your emotional core. You are developing a resilience that cannot be faked. You are building the capacity to lead not just others, but yourself through storms of uncertainty. When you master your emotions, you don't become emotionally numb. You become emotionally wise. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. You know how to hold space for your own pain without drowning in it. You learn how to feel fully without being ruled by feelings. And this emotional mastery gives you peace. Not a shallow, surface-level peace, but a deep, unshakable calm that holds steady no matter what chaos life brings. There is a quiet strength in taking full responsibility for your life. It's not loud, it doesn't come with applause or praise, but it's one of the most powerful choices you can ever make. When you stop blaming the world, your past, your environment, or other people for where you are, and instead take ownership of your actions, your patterns, and your decisions, you unlock the door to real, lasting transformation. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a gateway to freedom. Most people spend a large part of their lives pointing outward when things go wrong. They say, it's not my fault. They blame their parents, the government, their boss, their friends, or fate itself. And while it may feel justified in the moment, blame is a trap. It gives away your power. It convinces you that you're stuck because of something outside your control. And if something outside of you is in control, then you are powerless to change it. But when you say, this is my life, and I'm responsible for what I do with it, everything changes. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop making excuses. You stop outsourcing your power. You begin to see that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you always have control over how you respond to it. That shift from victim to creator is the beginning of self-mastery. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means being honest with yourself about your role in your results. It means recognizing where your habits are hurting you, where your beliefs are limiting you, where your fears are holding you back. It means looking in the mirror and asking, what part of me is contributing to this? What can I learn from this? What can I do differently? That level of self-inquiry requires courage, it requires humility, but it also opens up endless possibility. You can't grow if you don't own your flaws. You can't evolve if you keep pretending someone else is the reason you're not moving forward. Growth begins with truth. And the truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one else is responsible for your discipline, your healing, your effort, your decisions, or your direction. That's your job. And while that might feel heavy at first, it's actually a gift, because it means you are not at the mercy of anyone or anything. You get to decide who you become. Responsibility is also about consistency. It's about showing up when you don't feel like it. It's about staying committed even when the results aren't immediate. It's about doing the right thing even when it's hard. It's easy to take credit when things go right. The real test of character is whether you're willing to own your actions when they don't bring the outcome you expected. And in those moments when you fall short, when you make mistakes, when you hurt someone or make a poor choice, responsibility means not hiding, not deflecting, not pretending. It means acknowledging it, making it right, and learning from it. That is where true confidence is born. Not from being perfect, but from being accountable. People respect those who own their truth. More importantly, you begin to respect yourself. When you begin to take full responsibility, you start living with intention. You don't waste your energy on excuses. You use that energy to build. You stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself. You become dependable, not just to others, but to yourself. And in that dependability, in that deep personal accountability, you begin to rise. You begin to gain clarity, momentum, and self-trust. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to be pushed because you've learned how to lead yourself. Clarity is one of the most underrated yet essential elements of self-mastery. Without clarity, we drift. We get pulled in 100 directions, chasing things that don't align with who we are, making decisions that leave us unfulfilled, and wasting time and energy on things that do not serve our purpose. Clarity is not just about knowing what you want. It's about knowing who you are, why you do what you do, and where you are going. It is the internal compass that guides your thoughts, your actions, and your focus. Without it, you are reactive. With it, you become intentional. When you lack clarity, your days feel scattered. You might work hard, but you don't feel progress. You say yes to things you should decline. You confuse movement with advancement. You end up busy instead of effective, active instead of impactful. But once you gain clarity, even the smallest actions become powerful. You know what to pour your time into. You know what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You become focused, sharp, and directed. Clarity begins with deep self-reflection. It requires asking difficult questions. What do I value most? What kind of person do I want to become? What kind of life am I really trying to build? What do I need to let go of? These aren't surface-level thoughts. They require silence. They demand space. You won't find clarity while you're buried in distraction, lost in noise, or addicted to urgency. You find it in stillness, in solitude, in honest dialogue with yourself. It's easy to chase goals that sound impressive to others. Titles, money, recognition, approval. But if those goals aren't rooted in personal truth, they lead to emptiness. Clarity gives you the courage to pursue what's authentic to you. It helps you distinguish between what is urgent and what is important, between what is noise and what is truth, between what feeds your ego and what feeds your soul. When you have clarity, your life becomes less about proving and more about becoming. You stop comparing yourself to others because you know your path is your own. You stop wasting time on battles that aren't yours to fight. You don't get shaken by every challenge or distracted by every trend because you are anchored in purpose. Clarity gives you the discipline to stay the course when the journey gets hard and the vision to keep going when motivation fades. The people who achieve the most, who lead with power and presence, who make real impact, they aren't just talented. They are clear. They know what they are building and why it matters. That clarity fuels their decisions, shapes their discipline, and sharpens their focus. When opportunities arise, they don't jump at everyone. They evaluate them based on alignment. When adversity hits, they don't collapse. They remember their why and move forward with resolve. Clarity also simplifies your life. You don't need to be everything for everyone. You don't need to do 1,000 things to feel worthy. When you are clear, you become more selective with your time, your relationships, your commitments. You stop chasing things that drain you. You choose quality over quantity, purpose over popularity, impact over approval. You begin to move with direction instead of drifting with distraction. But clarity isn't something you find once and never revisit. It evolves as you evolve. It deepens with experience. It becomes sharper with each challenge you face. That's why self-reflection must be constant. You must regularly return to yourself, recalibrate your focus, and refine your intentions. It's a continuous process, one that keeps your life aligned and your energy focused. Discipline is the invisible bridge between your goals and your reality. It is the daily commitment to action, regardless of how you feel. Most people wait for motivation to arrive before they begin, but those who master themselves understand that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It is the internal agreement you make with yourself that says, I will show up, whether I feel like it or not, because my future depends on it. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's quiet. It often happens when no one is watching. Early mornings, late nights, uncomfortable sacrifices. It means choosing long-term reward over short-term comfort. It means doing the hard thing when the easy thing is right there calling your name. It means putting in the work even when progress feels slow, even when your mind tries to talk you out of it. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every success story you admire is built on the foundation of discipline. Talent may open the door, but discipline is what keeps you in the room. Ideas are everywhere, plans are easy, but execution, that requires discipline. That requires the ability to persist in the face of boredom, fatigue, distraction, and doubt. That is where most people give up. Not because they can't do it, but because they haven't trained themselves to stay consistent. The truth is, the person you become is built in the moments when you feel like quitting and choose not to. In the days when it would be easier to scroll, to sleep in, to skip the workout, to put it off. But you don't. You show up, you repeat the habit, you build the momentum, you honor the promise you made to yourself. That's not just discipline, that's self-respect. Every time you choose discipline, you tell yourself, I am worthy of growth, I am worthy of becoming more. Discipline is not about punishing yourself or living with rigidity. It's about structure, purpose, and integrity. It's about aligning your behavior with your values, about living in accordance with your vision. Not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's challenging. It's not about perfection, but about commitment. Even when you slip, discipline brings you back. It reminds you why you started. It restores your focus. It also builds emotional resilience. When you practice discipline, you begin to gain control over your impulses. You delay gratification. You stop making decisions based on fleeting emotions and start acting based on principle. You develop mental strength, the kind that carries you through discomfort, adversity, and uncertainty. And that mental strength bleeds into every area of your life. Your health, your finances, your relationships, your purpose. Most importantly, discipline builds trust within. It's easy to trust others who keep their word. But do you trust yourself? Do you keep your own promises? When you say, I'm going to wake up early, or I'm going to stop this habit, or I'm going to commit to this goal, do you follow through? Or do you let yourself off the hook? Self-trust is born through discipline. It's how you build confidence that isn't dependent on outside validation. It's how you walk with certainty because you know you can count on you. The life you want is not hidden behind some secret formula or sudden stroke of luck. It is built slowly, deliberately, through small daily disciplines that compound over time. The habits you form shape your identity. The routines you follow build your character. The effort you put in when no one else is looking, that's what sets you apart. That's what separates wishful thinking from real transformation.